Welcome, one and all, to the Off the Mic Wrestling Show here on YouTube. Your AEW Dynamite recap and reaction here. Listen, I got to tell you guys, this was one of the best Dynamites I've seen in a while. Very storyline driven, really hammered home the point and sold the pay per view, which is a little bit over a week away. In Wembley Stadium in London. But yeah, this did a really good job, and a lot more video packages that I'm accustomed to seeing in AEW. A lot less meaningless matches. Like I said, a lot of things were built up very nicely, and I think maybe Tony Khan's just watching the show and watching me just hammer him to bits for some of his decisions that he's made. There was some stuff in here that was weird, including the main event, which, like I said, I'm still trying to figure out what they're trying to tell here, especially with Swerve. I don't know if you could call it a heel turn from Swerve Strickland or if he's just playing the heel, but it's weird given what we know, and also that Hangman Adam Page is like on the horizon. He's playing a heel too, so we'll talk about that a little bit later on here in the show. But let's start off. They actually did something effective with Mercedes Moné that involved her not holding a microphone and doing what she does best in wrestling, and then having a segment with Britt Baker that enhances their feud. Granted, they've really done the bare minimum, and this isn't a hard thing to build, but there isn't a whole ton of heat to it. It's kind of manufactured heat. Um, but yeah, like I said, this was great because you put Mercedes in her element, which is, wrestling. And that's what she was brought there to do. She is not a great microphone promo worker. So she faces Hikaru Shida. So let me get this out of the way first. This was a good match. Two of the best women working today. I have no idea how Hikaru Shida can lose to Britt Baker a couple weeks ago and then all of a sudden get a TBS title match. And all of a sudden this match that we've been building up to since Forbidden Door is potentially going to go out the window if Hikaru Shida somehow wins. And we knew that wasn't going to happen. I understand why they were kind of doing this, and you know what, I'm willing to kind of somewhat let it go because, like I said, I am not for Mercedes Moné promo segments. I just don't think that they do a whole lot for me. Um, but I get it. I understand why this happened. But yeah, this was a solid match. This was a really solid match. There was a lot of good in-ring work in terms of, like, a lot of counters, a lot of early things going on. So Sheeta tried to suplex Mercedes on the apron, but Camille grabs Sheeta's foot. The referee actually sees this but doesn't throw Camille out. So refereeing still a little bit of a funky thing in AEW. Sheeta ended up at ringside while Monet was on the apron. Camille blocked Sheeta. Monet stood up and jumped past Camille to hit Sheeta with a knee strike. We get back in the ring. Monet hits Meteora for a 2 count. Late in the match, Sheeta gets a nasty looking kendo stick shot on Camille. Monet grabs the kendo stick, but the referee's focused on Mercedes, and Camille gets a big boot in, throws Sheeta back into the ring. Mercedes hits the moneymaker for the win. And this, like I said, good little match here to start the show. Mercedes isn't talking. Like I said, I really feel bad that I'm dumping on it because, like I said, this perception that I've had and a lot of people have had is Mercedes is one of the best of all time. In ring, yes, but like I said, she has gotten exposed with the reliance of her having to cut in ring promos. She is not good at that. But did what it needed to do. So then after the match, we get the Britt Baker run in. Her entrance hits. Camille goes to grab a fan in the front row with the Sting mask, pulls the person over the barricade and beats them up. This was a good callback to when Britt got a little sneak attack in a while back early on in the build of this match. Baker then arrives from the different side of the arena and puts on her glove and sets up Monet for the lockjaw finish maneuver that she does. But Camille gets a really weak looking pull out of it, and then Britt is going to use the kendo stick, and Camille just ducks and gets out of the way. I'm like, what kind of bodyguard is that? So it's like I'm fine with where this is going. This is better than a lot of stuff that they've done in the last couple of weeks. And again, like I said, I think a win for all of us is Mercedes didn't have a microphone in her hand, and there was just physicality here. There didn't need to be a promo. There was, and based off the rest of the way the rest of the show was structured, this was great. So then we recap the promo that, or the segment that happened on the internet, which really pissed me off, involving Hangman Page and Jeff Jarrett. And Jay Lethal was involved, and so it sets up this match where Jay Lethal is going to take on Hangman Page. So then we get an interview with Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, along with Karen Jarrett and Sanjay Dutt. But Hangman shows up, hits Jarrett and Lethal with a microphone, and they fight. And Lethal and Page fight through the curtain to ringside, and the match starts. So Lethal, early on in this match, hit like 5 suicide dives in succession. But then Page is able to come back and really turn this thing around. He hits a dead eye on the apron, which looked nasty. And then Hangman tosses Jay Lethal into the timekeeper's area, going into a picture-in-picture break. Back from the picture-in-picture break, they're putting over how Page has really dominated since the 5 suicide dives and the dead eye on the apron. Page gets a Death Valley driver in for a near fall. Lethal then rallies, goes for the figure 4, but Page gouges the eyes, puts Lethal down with a discus lariat, and then hits the buckshot lariat for the win. This was simple. This was effective. I think we're getting Hangman and Jeff Jarrett at Wembley. If not, maybe they're in the Casino Gauntlet match, which we'll talk about, which I think is a horrendously overused and deeply flawed concept. But like I said, Hangman's freaking terrific. I don't think I've given him enough praise because I've just been so pissed off at this product for the longest time. He has been freaking great with this character metamorphosis that he's had. He's still saying he's doing everything in good faith, but he's really a bad guy because he's like, attacking all these baby faces and like, doing some of these heinous things in the ring, but he thinks he's really good. So, but yeah, this was great. I really enjoyed this. So then Excalibur shows highlights from Rev Pro, where MJF actually faced Michael Oku, who's a great wrestler over there. And it looks like he's going to be coming to AEW sooner rather than later. He's one of Will Ospreay's best friends. So MJF, like I said, defeats Michael Oku, uses the Tiger Driver, and then tries to do the Tiger Driver on Michael Oku's, I think, fiance, girlfriend, but whoever accompanies him. I think her name is Amira. And so Will Ospreay comes in for the save, chases MJF away from the ring. And I love that they brought this up. And it's kind of neat to see this type of stuff when it actually, plays into storylines and you're not like doing it in passing. And like with what they did at Comic-Con with Britt and Mercedes, I'm not big on having big plot points. This sort of advanced the feud, not having announcing a match on a different show. This was fine because, like I said, it sort of progresses the storyline in another company, utilizes their footage, and you're able to advance this. And then started the chain of things of what I really enjoyed about this show. A lot of video packages to really enhance the feud. So it's a Will Ospreay MJF video package. The only person that fits the criteria for the best in the world is Will says this. MJF chimes in and said he's the best in the world. MJF said he will do whatever it takes to win, and added that Ospreay just doesn't have it in him to win the match. Along in this backstage promo, another thing that really pissed me off, that this aired backstage, Kyle Fletcher, after his match with MJF last week, was talking to Ospreay saying, "Why the hell aren't you doing the Tiger Driver, man? What the hell are you doing?" It's good that they incorporated that into this. Like I said, this was really well produced and really well done to hammer home the point. And hey, you didn't start for like the 50th week in a row with MJF opening the show. I'm guaranteeing you that they announced a face-to-face. Maybe I won't guarantee you, but there's a pretty strong likelihood that MJF Ospreay, the face-to-face, is going to open this show next week in Cardiff. So, but no, they did a really good job of enhancing this thing. Like I said, I don't think you needed to have MJF beat Will Ospreay to, like, get to this point. But you know what? It'll be a fun match. Will Ospreay should win. He should get the title back, and that sets up what's to come, which I really like. This Pac backstage delivers his promo, and he basically talks about, hey, I earned an international or American championship match. He accused Will Ospreay of stealing it from him. Pac said that was his ticket to Wembley Stadium and his Wembley moment, but he said it's okay because I'm just going to face the winner of MJF and Will Ospreay for the American title or international title, whatever the hell it's called at that point, at All Out in Chicago 2 weeks following that. So, look, it's good that they tied up loose ends, but I'm really confused as to why they set all of these things in motion if Pac wasn't going to ultimately be involved in this until after, because he's made a very big deal about being in Wembley. But I think what's going to happen, I think Pac is going to be in that gauntlet, and he should. He deserves it. He missed out on Wembley last year. He's from Newcastle, so it's I really hope that they give him a big stage. I think it's going to be Will Ospreay. It should be Will Ospreay. And if that's the case, holy crap, that's a fantastic match for All Out in Chicago 2 weeks after Wembley Stadium. So then we show Darby Allin, who's been like the workhorse of this company ever since coming back. I mean, the guy just never quits. I mean, you got to admire it to some degree. It's almost to a fault that he might just, kill his own body, and his body might just give up on him at some point. But so he has a match on Rampage. He has a match on Collision. So then we get another video package of Darby, really well produced. He spoke about how he killed himself on the Independents for low pay. He recalled sleeping in his car, then finding out that AEW signed Jack Perry. Darby said that he figured out that AEW was the place that the Elite would just hire their friends. Darby said nobody believed in Perry's Tarzan bullshit and praised him for being himself rather than going back to Jungle Boy. Darby also said he wished Perry would have been fired for the dumb shit you pulled. Some shit you pulled last year, and said he didn't think anyone would have missed him. He said they would have to put they'd have to put an end to things at Wembley Stadium, and so then this leads to Darby making an entrance. I don't know what it was for, if it was for a promo or if it was for a match. But Darby gets hit in the face with a guy wearing a hat and mask, and you know exactly who it is. It's Jack Perry revealing himself. He starts beating up Darby. He drags Allin backstage and runs him into a half-open garage door. He then pulls the garage door on top of Allin, trying to squish him. Perry kneels down next to Allin and calls him a self-righteous bastard. Jack then said Allin only sacrifices for himself and pretends to be the hero. Jack then fights off two security guards and tries to wheel a road case into Allin, but additional security shows up to stop him. Perry looks into the camera and basically says, hey, let's have a coffin match, more or less. And I was like, hell yeah. I mean, that makes this even more interesting and more fascinating, because remember, Darby's got the world title match at Grand Slam, and the coffin match is Darby's thing. I don't think he's lost a coffin match since he's been in AEW. And Jack Perry, like, legitimately has defended the title once since he won it at Forbidden Door. So that makes this a whole hell of a lot more interesting. I don't doubt this is going to be a good match. This is the best thing that they've done in the build of their thing, because I could have done without, lighting people on fire and hitting people with steel chairs and everything. This was an effective angle to, again, advance the feud. Another video airs. It's Mariah May. She asked if it's better to be remembered or forgotten. She said she copied Toni Storm's success and never her failures, mentioning, obviously, that she lost at Wembley last year, which was really the spawning of this timeless gimmick that she's got. Mariah says Storm's biggest mistake is being alive at the same time as her. Mariah took Storm gear in a photo and set it on fire. She said one day she will look out the window and wonder what happened to Storm. Mariah said they will both die, but she gets to write Storm's eulogy. This was really good. I think, again, some of the stuff that the build pretty much since Mariah's turn has been kind of funky. They brought Toni back too soon. Toni's been competing in random matches, and it's just a bunch of stuff that's kind of been thrown together. Like there was a match with Viva Van last week, which I think that just it didn't really do anything. But yeah, Tony wasn't there, which I found interesting, and I think that this was actually a good way to take the story because then everybody gets excited. Mina Shirakawa, everybody's favorite Japanese wrestler, at least in AEW, shows up. Renee Paquette is interviewing her. Shirakawa said she has not spoken to Tony Storm or Mariah May since the whole thing at Forbidden Door and the whole lesbian kissing thing that they did. She said she can't believe these are the same people she knew and hopes no one gets hurt. And then Renee asked her who she thinks is going to win. And again, more Mina on television. This girl's fantastic. And, like, she's awesome, and she was great in this build. And to see her conflicted in this whole thing actually really fits this story. She's not picking a side. That's really great. So then we confirm Jack Perry's request was granted. It is Darby Allin and Jack Perry in a coffin match for the TNT title at All In. That's going to be great. Then we get, listen, okay, let me get this out of the way. I have nothing against Kyle O'Reilly, Orange Cassidy, and Roderick Strong. Zero issue with any of these guys. These all are fantastic wrestlers. The concept of this match, what was on the line, and why this needed to happen makes no effing sense to me. This was a great match. These guys killed it. I don't doubt it. These are three of the best wrestlers in this company. Orange Cassidy goes out there and kills it every single week. If you don't like him, that's your own prerogative. I think he's terrific. But listen, this was for, and I talked about this I think I talked about this over the weekend. This was for the number one spot in the Casino Gauntlet match at All In. Okay, I understand why the number one spot is important, especially in this type of match, because the match can end at any point. But again, that represents the whole deeply flawed concept that this match is. And also the fact that you've done it, I don't know, I think you've done it 3 times since April. Like, it's just like, you don't need to do it this many times in the same year. Like, it's one thing if you could have like a Casino Battle Royal or something like that and do that once a year at Double or Nothing or at an exclusive pay-per-view or something like that. Or you do a Blood and Guts match every single year. Even if there was no story to it this year, at least it's a yearly tradition. Having to do this match 3 separate times this year to give out a world title shot or to give out a championship match or whatever. Because it was an international title match the first time they did it. Then it was a world title match, which Will Ospreay won those 2. And now it's going to be at All In. There's rumored to be some surprises, but okay. Like, anyway, my whole problem with this match is, like, it didn't need to happen. And it was the longest match on the show. It was great. There was a lot of great work. Roderick Strong was just kicking the shit out of people and chopping the shit out of people. It was awesome. Kyle O'Reilly doing some great work as well. You had a weird run-in the middle of the thing with Matt Taven and Mike Bennett trying to help out Roderick Strong, and then the conglomeration, Mark Briscoe and Tomohiro Ishii, come in, and they all fight to the back. So basically, near the end of this match, Kyle O'Reilly goes for a high-low on Strong, who avoids it. Strong and O'Reilly hit the move on Cassidy. Strong and O'Reilly both went for the pin, but the referee does not count it because he said only one man can win the match. That's weird. I've never seen a ref call that off. But maybe that's good effective refereeing. Kyle O'Reilly goes for a submission on Strong, but Orange Cassidy hooks him from behind with a almost like a crucifix pin, and gets the 3. And Orange Cassidy is number 1 in the match at All In. He's number 1 in the Casino Gauntlet. This was a fine match, but man, like I said, the logic behind it and the fact that they're doing this match again really just, it just doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't check out. And again, these guys are good wrestlers, but in terms of characters, there's not a whole lot there outside of the conglomeration and Undisputed Kingdom, which both are kind of just, factions that are there. So then after the match, O'Reilly and Orange Cassidy shake hands, solidarity there. We get a segment with Renee Paquette interviewing Kazuchika Okada and Claudio Castagnoli in the backstage area. So this is the hype up. They're going to have a match for the Continental Championship on next week's Dynamite in Cardiff, not on All In, which I thought was really interesting. Renee said there's no physicality, which kind of hampered this segment a little bit. Both these guys are in suits, looking sharp. Castagnoli Spoke about making good on this title shot, and also the fact what the Continental title means to him. He was in the Continental Classic. Okada mocked him. He basically said, "Hey, I'm the best wrestler in the world," and then basically closed by saying, "Good luck, bitch," and everybody popped because Okada is just like, he's not great with his English, but everything that he's been given, which is very little, has been really effective. Again, I don't like him being booked as a joke and only working at 20-25%. But you know what? He's been entertaining, and he's proved that side that he can be entertaining in that capacity as a character. But this is where it got interesting. After Okada walked away, and I know some people are going to be mad that Okada just got out of the way, but they kind of already, hampered the segment by saying no physicality, which, in all honesty, I don't know why they needed to do that. I mean, you could get some heat on this match. So after Okada walks away, Claudio says, hey, I want the Rainmaker next week, not this version of Okada. Claudio says, Okada will have 99 problems, and this bitch is number one. We get a little call back there. 99 problems. Quoting JC, like that. So, yeah, I'm pumped for this match. I mean, I want to see a real version of Okada that's not at 15 to 20%. The Okada that dominated Japan needs to come out in this match against Claudio. Because if that happens, this could honestly be a certified banger in one of the matches of the year. These are two of the best wrestlers that you're going to find. I'm excited to see this match. I'm a little disappointed that it's not getting all in, but hey, it should be a live crowd, really a live crowd in Cardiff next week for Dynamite. So, yeah, this was good. So then Excalibur shows what happened on Collision with Christian Cage serving as the special referee and ultimately counting out both the House of Black and Bullet Club Gold after he speared, I think it was Buddy Matthews. So then backstage, Christian is getting interviewed along with the rest of the Patriarchy by Renee. Cage claimed that the Collision match, he called it right down the middle. He said it wasn't his fault that the two teams couldn't answer the bell and were counted out. Cage claimed he will hold every title in AEW at the same time. Oh, man. Cage shifted his focus to Nick Wayne. Apparently, he's going to face Kip Sabian, who he called a fatherless weirdo on Rampage. Christian said he wouldn't be there for the match because he didn't want to associate himself with bottom-feeding losers in Norfolk. So then Cage took issue with something Renee said. Dismissed her and said she's probably and says, hey, you're probably a worse mom than you are an interviewer. So that was Christian can be really good. He can be really good. This gimmick is kind of worn thin on me. Somebody posted this on the internet that he hasn't really elevated, say Luchasaurus in anything, and Nick Wayne's kind of just been a lackey really through a lot of this patriarchy thing. Christian's just so damn good that I'm willing to look past a lot of this crap. But again, like I've said with this show, some of these characters have gotten redundant and repetitive. Some of this stuff with Christian, was a lot different than the dead dad jokes and, all this other weird stuff. And talking about holding all the AEW titles and stuff. At some point, you have got to branch Luchasaurus off. It's been, for God's sake, it's been 2 years since they've been affiliated with each other. It goes back to All Out 2022. At some point, you have got to get Luchasaurus, Kill Switch, whatever, away from Christian. It's just been going on for too long that at some point people are just going to stop caring. But Christian, like I said, is just so good. He's holding this thing together as well as he can. So then we get Tony Schiavone in the ring. Said on behalf of the fans, we don't want Christian Cage. Tony introduces Hook. He comes out with a wrap over his eye, selling the fireball that he took weeks ago. Hook tells Schiavone that he couldn't see out of one eye. It actually drew some laughs out of the crowd, which was interesting. Hook then said he could still see out of the other one, and that's a problem for Chris Jericho. So he calls Chris Jericho out. God help us. Oh, man, this show was doing fine, and then we get Chris Jericho television time. It's amazing what's happened to me and how my opinions on Chris Jericho in the last 3 to 4 years. I give him credit for evolving, like I've said with some of these other characters, but it's just gotten to the point where Chris Jericho is just not needed this much on television in his 50s to advance television. because he, like I said, he has just gotten annoying. It's not entertaining because at least with the Inner Circle, that was fine. But then you get to the Jericho Appreciation Society. That helped nobody. Daniel Garcia got over on his own once he got away from the Jericho Appreciation Society. And now this, with the learning tree, what the hell has Big Bill gained out of this shit? What the hell's Brian Keith gained out of this shit? Nothing. And Hook's not going to gain anything out of this shit because it's like it's the Jericho vortex, and they're comically using that in this. But so anyway, Chris Jericho comes out on the stage with Big Bill and Brian Keith. Jericho calls Hook a stupid son of a bitch for wanting to challenge him, even after he was hit with a fireball. Jericho acted like he was going to take the match because Hook challenged Chris Jericho for a title match in Norfolk, which we all knew wasn't going to happen. Also, when Chris Jericho shows up in street clothes, of course he's not going to take the match. So Jericho acted like he was going to take it, and then said Hook wasn't getting the fight. Jericho said it wasn't worth his time to fight Hook in Norfolk, but it would be worth his time to fight him at Wembley Stadium. Really? We're getting an FTW title match at Wembley Stadium. I'm happy for Hook, because Hook had to put up with a lot of shit last year because there was the Jack Perry stuff that spawned from his match that led to what happened backstage. And Hook, I think, was walking around in the footage that was shown earlier this year. But yeah, do we really need Chris Jericho at Wembley Stadium? I understand he's been marketed as one of their biggest stars. Again, nobody wants to see Chris Jericho in 2024. It's gotten to the point where people just have stopped caring. The gimmicks that he has done and the creative firepower that he has had throughout most of his career, it just isn't working anymore. And it's not interesting. It's not fun. It's not great. It sucks that Hook is involved in this. So Jericho also says that there's a couple of caveats. Jericho says that this will be Hook's last shot at the FTW title. So if he doesn't win, he's got to move on and stay away from the FTW title and get away from the Jericho Vortex and whatever. And then he also says, hey, Jericho also says that you got to face Big Bill next week in order to get this match in Cardiff. So Big Bill said he would beat Hook down and shove him straight up Taz's ass. Straight up his ass, is barked again by Brian Keith. Could have done without that line. That was a little stupid. So then Jericho says, bye, guys. Bye, Hook. And said he'll see him at Wembley. So Hook accepted the terms. So he was looking forward to dumping Big Bill on his big-ass head and then tearing Jericho limb from limb. This was good from Hook. Hook said, after Wembley, you will never be the same, never, ever be the same again. The famed Chris Jericho line. I like that from Hook. I like the game from Hook. Hook came out pretty well in this. He's not the greatest promo guy, but he did okay. Like I said, I just could have done without Chris Jericho on my television screen. I've been saying this for weeks, and I've said it on this show. I'm just over it. So then we get the tag team title match between the Young Bucks and the Acclaimed. Young Bucks are making their entrance, and Caster and Bowens run out and attack the Bucks from behind, dump them off the stage. Bucks rolled to the side of the stage, and then Caster dives onto both of them. The Bucks are then able to take control of the brawl, and the referee, Rick Knox, started the match, and once 1 minute from each team were inside the ring. So this was fine. I'll get through some of this stuff, but the match, I mean, the finish to this match just made no fucking sense whatsoever. Billy Gunn gets involved. He chases around Nick with a chair. Nick dupes him in, and the ref ends up ejecting Billy Gunn, even though he was watching what was going on, and Gunn actually never got physical. That was weird. Nick tears up a Dung Buck sign from a fan and threw it back at the fan, who swatted it down. Caster picked it up and threw the sign at Nicholas before working him over with punches. The Bucks are able to isolate Anthony Bowens going to the picture-in-picture break. Bucks pump up their shoes coming out of it, super kick Caster off the apron. Bowens put them down with a clothesline. And then this is where Tony Schiavone noted, hey, we've taken our final commercial break. And this is at, I think, 9:43 Eastern time. It's like, oh, okay. and we still have Swerve and Wheeler to close the show. So then Caster gets a hot tag, works over the Bucks. He hits Nicholas with a crossbody from the top rope, but Matthew's able to break up the pin attempt. Caster grabs Matthew around the waist, and they go into into the ref. It's a ref bump. Rick Knox taking a ref bump. Man, that's weird. So then Matt goes low, Dick Hicks City, Yambag City. He goes to ringside, grabs one of the tag team belts, sets up to hit Max Caster with it. And then FTR shows up. Dax grabs the title belt away from Matthew while Cash Wheeler's checking on the ref. Matthew was going to act like he was hit with the belt. And then or he looked like he was going to act like he was going to get hit with the belt. Then he spits at Harwood, who just tackles him right in front of the ref for the DQ. What in the holy hell was this? What in the holy hell was this? I understand that you had to get to this point to further what you were going to do with FTR obviously being inserted in this tag team picture, because this was always supposed to be the plan. And really, the Acclaimed was kind of a placeholder because you didn't know what was going on with Dax with his health situation. But seriously, a ref bump. By the way, I stand corrected. This was the longest match of the night, not the triple threat or the three-way match that they did with Orange Cassidy, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong. But man, why would you do a ref bump and then just do a DQ? What's the point of the ref bump? Like, the ref bump is supposed to get heat for the heels or something, or get a visible pin or something like that to lead to there being some type of rematch or some way to weave into it. If you're going to do the DQ, do the DQ. That's my issue here. This didn't really make any sense. By the way, here's a fun little fact for y'all. That was the first tag team title defense. The first tag team title defense since Revolution, when Sting and Darby Allin defended these titles in Sting's last match. Yes, I said that because, remember, the last match that they had for the tag team titles was that ladder match at Dynasty. The Young Bucks have not defended the titles since they won them until tonight. That is bananas that it went this far for a company that puts so much emphasis on tag team wrestling. And this was just a hot piece of wet fart bullshit ass of a finish. Like, it just, if that even made any sense. Like, I was so infuriated with this type of booking because it's like I said, if you're gonna do the DQ, which seemed like the obvious way to go for this, involving FTR, then do the DQ, or have something like that. But why why have the ref take a bump there? It didn't do anything to enhance the finish that you had. That's my problem. So we're gonna get FTR. FTR Young Bucks and the Acclaimed triple threat match, three-way match at All In. Again, this is literally, you're adding the Acclaimed to the match that you had last year at All In. And I'm done with FTR and the Bucks. They're two of the best tag teams in the world, but I've seen them face each other like 5-6 times already. Like, I don't want to see that again. Like, I love these are two of the best tag teams in the world. Young Bucks kind of drive me crazy for some of their personal shenanigans that they do. But again, the tag team division is lacking. And this finish was just a bunch of ass. It was bad. FTR are arguing with the Acclaimed. Security has to get the teams apart. Bucks make their exit. And meanwhile, backstage, Renee Paquette speaking with Christopher Daniels. He books FTR versus the Acclaimed for the AEW for a shot and the number one contendership for the tag team titles. So that's going to be on Collision. Again, Young Bucks are EVPs. Why can't they just overrule this and just say, hey, we're not facing anybody? Like, what's this angle doesn't make any sense whatsoever with Christopher Daniels being there, and then Tony Khan's just making rulings and stuff through Tony Schiavone. Like, this whole authority thing has just been a bunch of bullshit. Like, it's just been a bunch of dumb nonsense that's been going on. So yeah. The odds are that's going to be a non-finish on Collision, and we're going to get the triple threat that I just mentioned. And I think that's been the way this thing has been building for a while now. Bryan Danielson is so they do a really nice video package before the main event. To Good Riddance, Time of Your Life, a lot of Ring of Honor footage, a lot of AEW footage in this. I will say the tone struck me very weirdly because Bryan Danielson, if you've been paying attention to what he's been saying in the media, not on television, he's not retiring. He said he's not retiring. But now we're building this match at Wembley that this could be his last match. And then you air this video package literally 10 days before you're supposed to do this match, and it feels like he's already done. So, really odd, but it's like, it was good retrospective. I love Bryan Danielson. He's one of the best I've ever seen. I saw his last independent match in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla out here in Southern California. I saw his big-time return at SummerSlam when he returned to face to be a part of Team Cena against the Nexus in 2010. I also saw him and John Cena. I followed this guy's career religiously for a long time. If this is the end, it's the end. But like I said, this is just like a lot of this build and the confusing nature of what they've been trying to tell on television. Again, with Hangman, now they've clearly distanced him away, so that's interesting. Bryan Danielson is shown on the main floor in the front row. He's in street clothes. Crowd cheers. Wheeler Yuta comes out. Really flat reaction again. Like I said, nothing against Wheeler Yuta. I think he's great. I think he went early on in his stages of the Blackpool Combat Club. He was great, and he really fit the group. But him going away for 6 months with the concussion issues and coming back and just really nothing, just sort of showing up out of nowhere, the crowd's not invested. They don't care. They don't. And so then you give him this match in the main event against your world heavyweight champion. It's a wet fart of an ending. So, I could have done without a lot of stuff in this match. I understand, Swerve really was the aggressor and really was showcasing a lot in this match, but it's like this went about almost 10 minutes. It went over into the overrun. So Yuta is able to escape and do the capture kicks on Swerve, a callback to Bryan Danielson. Swerve then threw kicks from his back and flipped Yuta into a pin for a 2. Swerve powered up Yuta, who countered into a Hurricane Rana that sent Swerve to the floor. And then another suicide dive. That was the theme of the night. So back in the ring, Yuta goes for another top rope move, but Swerve sidesteps and puts him in a move that Excalibur said was similar to the label lock. Let's call it what it is. It pretty much was the label lock. Yuta's able to escape, applies an ankle lock. Swerve escapes and catches Yuta with an elbow. Yuta took Swerve down and hit him with elbows to the shoulder or the head. Yuta hooked Swerve in for a pin for a near fall. Yuta executes a good-looking German suplex, bridges for a 2. Swerve then catches Yuta with a headbutt that was right in the neck. It was almost like an uppercut with his head. Danielson called for Yuta to get up. Swerve hit the house call, motioned for Yuta to get up and bring it. Crowd chanted one more time. Shows you who they were rooting for in this match. Swerve hits another house call. He picks Yuta up and hits him with a third house call. Swerve then doesn't pin him. He grabs Yuta by the arms and stomps him, mounts him, throws a bunch of punches, and the referee just calls it TKO. It's been not just an MMA style finish here. Listen, like I said, I'm fine with this. It could have gone a little bit shorter for my liking, especially with it being so close to the top of the hour. I understand it's your world champion. But yeah, if you were going to book Wheeler Yuta in this match, he had to get pretty much slaughtered. That's just how it was going to look. It's weird. They've been booking Swerve as this uber babyface, and I understand due to the nature of the story that Bryan Danielson's going to be the big time babyface and Swerve's got to be heel. But it's like we've got the whole thing. He's been the baby face and the top face in the company, and now you're doing this for the sake of this story. It's like I said, a lot of the tones in this, it's just weird. So after the match, Danielson gets in the ring, Swerve gets out of there. Swerve's music is playing, but he tells it to shut off. He says he's got a message for Bryan, and Swerve said what he did to Yuta was an example of what he intends to do in front of 50,000 people at Wembley Stadium. And then Swerve goes to the family thing and then said he would mutilate Danielson in front of Danielson's daughter at Wembley. Swerve said he would force Danielson to retire when he cripples him. Taz said Swerve on commentary said that Swerve broke the code by threatening to cripple Danielson. Swerve's music plays as he turns to leave, but Danielson is tending to his friend Wheeler Yuta, and Danielson hits a blindside house call on Danielson while he's tending to him. Swerve did the slow the yes chant with his arms while Prince Nana dances next to him, and that's the end of the show. Again, I like what Swerve is doing here with this heel thing, but what's going to happen after he wins? It's like, okay, because again, we went through this and it wasn't to nearly this level of aggression that we saw with Will Ospreay, who was a mega babyface. Now he's this nasty, sniveling heel that he was. Like I said, it fits the story, but again, what we've been told, like, you got to have some level of consistency with what you're telling on screen, and that's my problem. Like I said, the whole vibe with Bryan Danielson has just been really weird and disconnected. I get the story that they're trying to tell with, a potential retirement on her hands at Wembley. I don't think it's going to happen. Bryan Danielson, I think, is going to win. I would be surprised if he didn't win and he ultimately did retire. But you know what? Crazier things have happened in wrestling. I thought The Undertaker wouldn't lose at WrestleMania. He lost twice. He lost to Brock Lesnar. And that was one of the most shocking things I've ever seen in wrestling. So, I mean, anything's possible, man. But they're doing what they can to make this thing really interesting. But again, it's just there's some odd tones that are being struck. And I didn't think, again, I'm okay with Wheeler Yuta being in this spot. Again, I think Jon Moxley being there, but I understand why they didn't do it, because you're not going to kick the living shit out of Jon Moxley. By the way, it looks like Jon Moxley, I think, is going to miss Wembley. Maybe he shows up in the gauntlet match. That would make a lot of sense, given that he's been off television since Forbidden Door. But that's another interesting element to play a role in it. So, all in all, this was a pretty decent episode of Dynamite. Considering the last couple of weeks, it really pissed me off. A lot of great video packages in the show. Some people saying, "Where's the wrestling? Where's the wrestling?" Sometimes you need to develop stories. And I would like I'm not saying that you need to have 4 or 5 video packages to hype up your matches every single show. And I'd like for them to disperse these out over the course of your build rather than, less than 2 weeks before the show is supposed to go on the air at Wembley Stadium. But like I said, solid show, solid effort from AEW. I got to hand it to Tony Khan. That was a lot of stuff in there, with the exception of the tag team title match, which was just a garbage finish, which made no sense whatsoever. So, speaking of AEW, I've got to address this as like an internet, thing. And, it's been kind of a slow news cycle, but for whatever reason, people are really getting mad about Cody Rhodes and his title reign, because I guess it hasn't lived up to the hype, and a lot of the stuff has been quote unquote predictable. So first of all, WWE has a really good problem that they haven't had in a long time. They have way too many good baby faces and not enough credible heels to face somebody like a Cody Rhodes, to face somebody Roman's obviously going to not be there, and he's obviously turned into a baby face, but there's LA Knight. He's the champion. He's a baby face. You've got I could keep running down a bunch of people on the card. You could go over to Raw. Seth Rollins is there. CM Punk is there. It's just on SmackDown, it's hard when you've got Kevin Owens, Randy Orton's feuding on Raw. So a lot of people are like, yeah, Kevin Owens, the way that feud was built didn't really make a whole hell of a lot of sense. I was like, really? Kevin Owens was a devious motherfucker when he was the prize fighter. And listen, if you got a problem with him trying to defend himself from himself, then you don't understand, and you haven't been watching Kevin Owens for the last 10 years in WWE. When he is going after that title, he is one vicious MFer. We saw him go after the title a lot against Roman Reigns when he was a babyface. But if you go back to when, he turned on Kofi Kingston 5 years ago. We remember when he was Big O. It's just, listen, Kevin Owens could play both sides of the fence, and like I think this is going to turn him into a heel. And to be honest with you, what we all thought was going to happen with Randy Orton, they're going to probably milk the Randy Orton element of this thing a little bit and kick the can further down the road. And Kevin Owens is going to really play the heel in this whole thing moving forward. But then there was some stuff on the internet where people were starting to body shame Cody Rhodes. What? What is wrong with you people? Cody Rhodes, like, just because he's not a 300-pound, like, beefed up beefcake out of his mind doesn't mean that he's not this, like, uber star. Cody's a good-looking guy. He's got like the charm of like being a natural babyface. He cuts good promos. He gets people to believe in them and cheer for him. But come on, really? We're really starting to body shame people on the internet? That's where I'm starting to draw the line. I know there's bloodline truthers who are like, Cody will never measure up to Roman Reigns. Listen, what's not great on a curve, again, WWE has a really good problem here where they have too many baby faces, which is something that Vince McMahon struggled royally to book. So now you've got to start finding storyline opportunities. And let's face it, Cody wasn't losing the title before SummerSlam. So what did you expect was going to happen? Yeah, you got to tell compelling stories, but Cody was never going to lose. Come on. Like, really, he spent 2 years trying to win the championship, and you're expecting him to lose right away? Give me a break. But what's going to happen in the back half of this year is going to be really interesting for what happens with Cody Rhodes. This Kevin Owens storyline could be really, really interesting. And I'm fascinated to see where it goes. But yeah, that's a little WWE flavor inserted in here. But like I said, a good night for AEW. We'll see where things go. I don't watch Collision, but there's obviously a big plot point with the Acclaimed and FTR potentially fighting for a tag team title shot, which I don't think we'll get there, but I think we'll get to a three-way. And interestingly enough, I think there's only 5 matches or 6 matches currently. And then randomly, they threw Chris Statlander teaming with Stokely against Tomohiro Ishii and Willow Nightingale on 0 Hour. And I was like, this has been one of the bigger women's feuds built, and you can't get them on the show, and then you throw them in a tag match, and Statlander beats Willow in an eliminator match for her title. What are we doing? So we'll see if any matches get added to All In. And yeah, follow the show, like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube at OT Mike Wrestling, OT Mike Wrestling on Twitter, and me at Off the Mic 28. Thanks so much for tuning in. I love you all for the support. Appreciate it. And I'll talk to you guys real soon. Bye-bye.